Hello there. In today's session, we'll talk about the tourist visa to Singapore for Indian nationals. So, I've done a brief checklist here, which gives you the different forms as well as the information that you have to provide to the embassy. Of course, via the authorized visa agent, because the embassy doesn't accept it directly. Now, first thing you should remember is, let's run through the checklist. Make up a covering letter. The covering letter is a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and where you're going and why you're going. The group size, if you're more than one, or if it's a couple, or whatever you're doing. And a brief itinerary, if possible, saying, okay, I'm going to Singapore to see Sentosa Island and enjoy the food, or whatever it may be. So that's always a good idea to make a covering letter when you apply for any visa, because it gives a brief introduction and it sort of sums up your entire application in some manner. Make it as brief as possible. A couple of paragraphs should do. So a covering letter, check. Then the form 14A, which is the application form, which is a 2-page form, which is available on the internet. You just Google form 14A for Singapore tourist visa, and you'll get that. It's downloadable off the Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs website as well. And it is also available free from the agents. So you can get a copy there and write it out. It's got information about where you're going to stay, what is your permanent address, and so on. It's a normal application form. Very simple and easy to fill. So fill that up. A 4.5 by 3.5 centimeter photograph, a passport size, I think slightly bigger, but with a white background. If you have doubt, go to a studio somewhere wherever you are and tell them I need one for the Singapore visa. They have a format and template, they'll give you one. Flight bookings, of course, the moment you make your bookings, just make a copy of the flight bookings and attach it alongside. Your accommodation booking, be it hotels, Airbnb, whatever it may be. Even if you're staying with somebody, get a letter from them. But I'll come to that later. For the moment, some form of accommodation booking that is verifiable and valid for the date of travel. So there you go. And your overall, your general employment letter, whatever your economic activities, you may be self-employed. So if you run a business or whatever it is, you have to attach some proof or evidence that you are gainfully employed. In the case of businessmen or self-employed people, it may be required that you have to attach things like business license, copy, and so on. But they don't ask for a lot of detail, just proof or evidence that you are self-employed or that you are employed with somebody else and that you are doing something economically gainful. Then a 6 months bank statement is always a good idea to give a bank statement with sufficient funds in it that shows that you have economic stability and that you have a certain amount of money to cover the cost of your travel. And the passport copy, of course, because they don't keep the passport with them. They take it, verify it and give it back. In the case of, if you're in Abu Dhabi, Omay Travel will verify that your passport is valid for 6 months and they take a copy of the passport with a valid residence visa. In India, they do just the same because the visa eventually is delivered as an electronic visa which comes into your mailbox. So the duration of the visa, generally, it is a multiple entry visa that they provide for Indians, and the duration, if from the Abu Dhabi, the Singapore embassy in Abu Dhabi, they give a 35-day visa, which is that means that it's a multiple entry visa valid for 35 days. You can go in and out, let's say you're going to Thailand or somewhere close by, or Malaysia or something, and then you can come back in. But the overall duration of your trip or stay within Singapore should not exceed 35 days. That's the idea. In India, I believe they do it as a 2-year multiple entry visa. That means the validity is 2 years, but you are allowed to stay up to 35 days during the 2 years within the country. If you need more, you have to make a specific application. That's a different process. You're talking about normal tourists. Generally, tourists don't spend more than a couple of weeks in Singapore at a given time. Then, of course, we have covered this one here, and the cost, of course, which is 80 AD, which is actually Singapore $30. So depending upon whichever country you're applying from, either from India or from the UAE, it is converted to the local currency. In the UAE, it is 80 dirhams. This is just what the embassy charges as visa fees. The service charge is about 60 to 95, depending upon where you apply. If you're applying in Dubai at VFS, I think it's 60 or 65 dirhams. If you're applying in Abu Dhabi, it is about 95. It is 95 dirhams, including VAT, at Omay Travel. There are other agencies in Dubai as well who do the visa application for you. I think there are 1 or 2. You can get them off the Singapore, again, the website. They charge somewhere in between. So altogether, it is 80 plus 60. That's from between 140 AED to 175 AED. So it costs something like. In India, it is around 1500 to 1600 rupees. Plus the cost of 300, which is the service charge that they levy. The authorized visa agent charges about 300. So it's about 1800 to 1900 rupees is the cost of the visa. This is an important website. You can use this for any resource. The Singapore government website, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.gov.sg. And there they've got a list of authorized visa agents as well. They cover them by area, by city. So for instance, if you go to the mfa.gov.sg website / Chennai, which is the consulate, the Singapore consulate in Chennai, they give the list of visa agents who are in South India. They cover Bangalore, they cover Cochin, they cover Tamil Nadu and so on. So you can see whoever is closest to you, you can go approach them. The authorized visa agent will take your application and then submit it onward to the Singapore embassy. Now there are a couple of other things. You can get a local resident in Singapore to apply on your behalf, in which case he has to have something called a Sing Pass, which is something that is a local identity and access to the electronic ID for the Singapore citizen or as permanent resident. They have access on the Sing Pass to apply for a visa on your behalf. It also costs 30 Singapore dollars, but they also have to give you a letter of introduction and so on, which you can use. So that's another way of doing it. If you don't want to go through the normal tourist visa process, you can get somebody in Singapore to apply on your behalf and explain your relationship. It could be a relative or a friend or whatever. As long as he's got access to Sing Pass, he can do it for you. The documentation there is also fairly straightforward, but that's available on the website. The other thing I want to talk about is the transit visa, which is a 96-hour or a 4-day visa, which is available for travelers who are in transit and are either going onward from Singapore or via Singapore to a few countries like Australia, New Zealand, the United States, South Korea, Japan, United Kingdom, or the Schengen Union. So any of these locations, if you're traveling to, you can get a transit visa. When I say you can, or the actual word that I must use is they may give you a transit visa. It means that you're not entitled to one, like I said earlier. You have to go and request at the counter there, at the immigration counter. And invariably, they're very happy to do it. They will give you a 4-day pass to go into Singapore and do your thing and come back. Now, the good thing is that this is also valid for people who are returning from these locations, as long as they're transiting via Singapore, and even though their visa may have been used. Let's say you have a single entry visa for the Schengen Union and you have already used it during your trip and you're on your way back, still they will allow you to enter Singapore on a transit visa on your way back, provided you have return tickets to India or your point of origin, and you have proof that you have adequate money to stay in Singapore during the duration of your trip. Yeah, but as again, you cannot demand anything. They look at your travel history, they look at you, they generally look at your resources, and then they will make a decision. But it's generally no problem at all. One final thing, the processing time is generally 3 to 4 working days. They're pretty good with it, so you should be able to find the visa in your inbox within maybe less than a week once you apply, as long as all your documents are in order. Now, all the links to the form as well as to the Singapore website and so on, I have put in the description box, and you can find them there. Do feel free to comment on anything that you wish to know about. If it is something that I can do, I will be more than happy to respond to you as quickly as possible. So happy traveling, and let's see you with our next destination in the next session. Hello, if you like the video, then like, subscribe and share my videos, and I'll send you more your way. If you do like it, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button below, and then you got more coming your way. Bye bye.